Hey, Bryan. Uh,
Yes.
did you get your sample? I didn't get my sample. Did you get your sample?
Yeah, I
I
know, right?
wish I
No,
could
no, no.
send you guys a sample.
He's just now opening it. Can he just like reach through the
Yeah,
screen and just
you
give
guys
us
go.
a...
Give me your
Yeah,
give me your
I'm,
glass.
I'm scratching my screen right now trying to.
Welcome once again to Chill Filtered, the podcast where we drink whiskey so you don't have to, but you probably should. And you probably are. Hey, that's why we like you. Whether you like bourbon or root beer, I think you're going to like today's episode. We have a very special guest today. And let me just get it going right now. I'm going to introduce him. This guy is a bourbon legend. This guy is in the Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame. This man took me on a tour about 10 years ago, a private tour. He probably doesn't remember, but and we got to see the Warehouse X, stuff like that. It was one of the coolest things I ever did in my life. And from that day on, especially when we started the podcast, I was hoping to see him again. And for episode 400 and counting, we are so grateful to have the global whiskey ambassador, Freddie Johnson, on the podcast today. Freddie, so good to have you. Thanks for joining us today.
Cole, you did something really bad for you and Bryan to be stuck with me this afternoon. So what went wrong? What went wrong?
I was telling Bryan, not only was I beaming with the excitement, I was actually nervous. And I am never nervous on this podcast, but I know I don't need to be. Because you are awesome to have, and you such good stories, such good representation of not only bourbon but generations of bourbon. Cool stuff like that. So we're grateful to have you on.
Yeah, I think you need to flip that around without even realizing it. Well, there's a reason I call them benchmarks.
Nice.
And you just made reference to over 400 podcasts. And obviously, you've developed quite a following, the two of you. And so when you start thinking about that, obviously the benchmark was the first podcast that you did. That was your benchmark. And so obviously you got something right because people expect no less than their first experience with you. And so you can always do better, but they never expect any less than their first experience when they first tune in and check you guys out. So
I love it.
that's
Thank you
pretty
so
cool.
much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
A
No,
lot.
it feels great to have that milestone, but I love that you call it a benchmark. It's perfect.
Yeah. And well, little play on words there, but seriously, it's to me, just in the first few words that you had shared, that's Freddie. I tell people all the time when this whole thing got started, the ultimate compliment that you can ever give someone is what you just said to me is when you made the comment, you probably don't remember me.
Uh-huh.
All right. That's a compliment, and most people don't even realize it because it means that you at some point could have blown somebody off or cut them short, but you didn't. And you planted a seed, and that seed is an emotional connection that those folks have with that moment. And a lot of times it makes them a better person because of something that you did. So whenever you hear those words, you probably don't remember me. They usually remember everything about that moment.
That's exactly right. I was beaming then too. I was my wife was taking pictures of me and my smile was like up to my eyes. Like I was like, this is so cool.
But quite the compliment. Thank you.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. We wanted to start out with a fun question today.
Okay.
We know you have a nice, what we would call a philosophy, and we tried to have a similar philosophy, but I wanted to know, and I'm sure our listeners want to know, what's your philosophy on, some people call them unicorn pours, or even like hold on to that bottle, or the big bottles. What's your philosophy on something like a unicorn bottle?
When do you open that?
Yeah.
So I'm sure most many of your listeners have seen the documentary Neat.
Mm-hmm.
That was my aha moment.
Nice.
And it was a moment of reflection because at the time it was happening, I did not realize the significance of what I was about to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I ask people when they are stuck with me on a tour, I take them to a bunch of different places, kind of like what we did going to Warehouse X and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And without even focusing on it, I try to get people to understand this distillery, as old as it is, it's always had whiskey on its premise.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you walk in here today and there's just barrels everywhere. So the obvious is there's always going to be more whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you think about it, you have to think back and think about some of your friends that you had a good pour with, that you have never had another pour with those folks.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tell people all the time, we lose sight of the fact that life is the fragile piece of all this, because the machines and the process is going to continue to make whiskey, because whiskey is going to always be around.
Mm-hmm.
And we just lose sight of that. So that was my aha moment, was with that bottle of Pappy that Julian Van Winkle had given to my family. And I'm so busy trying to, the blowing smoke of this unicorn bottle, and I'm rattling on, and my father just kind of looks at me and smiles, and he says, Freddie, I'm fully aware of the whiskey. Would you just give me a pour? He just cut through the whole crap. He says, yeah, I'm
I
fully
love
aware of
it.
that.
Mm-hmm.
The subtle message, though, is what we do after we give people that pour. This is what blows you away. Usually, if it's a good bottle of wine, you put the cork beside the bottle, and the subtle message to those that you're sharing the wine with, I'm letting it breathe. It's okay to have another pour.
Mm-hmm.
But with those good bottles of bourbon or whiskey, you give them that pour, and you start slapping that cork back down that bottle, and you push it off to the side, which means I want you to taste it, but that's all you get. And
Mm-hmm.
so my father said, just whenever you decide to bring out a good bottle, you'll only bring it out with somebody you care about anyway. So if I don't like you, you're not even going to bring it out.
That's a good point.
So that was the first piece. And he said, so the second piece is, after you tell them what you went through to get it, and you give them that pour, he says, while you're still making eye contact with them, just very casually put the cork beside the bottle and keep talking to them. Well, that kind of planted a seed with me. He says, so the subtle message to them, the inference is, I'm not worried about my whiskey. I'm enjoying this moment with you. And if you'd like to have another drink, it's fine. Now, the cool part about that, Cole, is a lot of people think that they have to put the cork immediately back in the bottle because of oxidation. So I met with the folks over in the chemistry lab because I was curious about this. And the lead chemist, the comment back was, there is so little oxidation that's going to come up through that small neck of that bottle, that the time that you spend enjoying the pleasure and company of others, it's insignificant to the taste profile of that whiskey. So
I love it.
he was like, both of them said, don't even worry about it. So just enjoy the whiskey and enjoy the moment. You can always put the cork back in the bottle later.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, for me, the point of reflection was when we did that video, and that guy bumped that barrel, and all that dust came down, and I went back and I remembered that moment. It was the first time that I'd actually seriously thought about the mistake I was about to make with my own father, and that was denying a memory moment
Yeah.
that I may have never ever experienced had I have been, selfish and put the cork back in that bottle and just blew him off. So, yeah. Oh yeah.
One of the things we were wondering about was, like meaningful pours. Obviously, that moment is a very meaningful pour. Would you say it's the most meaningful pour you've ever had? Any others come to mind?
Not to that level. Not to that level. because it changed the way that I relate to uh, visitors that come here, or if we're doing a private barrel pick, or if we're doing a private flight selection. Um, the only event that has been in comparison to that moment with my dad and my brother was a fellow by the name of George Rupert. He is a friend of the Trace, and he's associated with the Thoroughbred Horse Brokers over in Lexington. And we were doing an event here at Buffalo Trace, and afterwards he had shared with me. He said, "I have a collection." Now this guy's 90, look, pushing 90 or above, but traditional old whiskey guy. And he comes up to me and he says, "Freddie, I've got this really tremendous collection of whiskey that people have been giving me. I don't even know half of what I've got." He said, "Would you mind coming over to my place and just kind of walk with me through some of this stuff so that I can appreciate what I really have here?" All right. So I agreed to do this with him. And another fellow by the name of Michael Thornton was with us. So we're going through this and we're sipping on these. And he gets to this bottle of Pappy 20, which brings me back to the neat document with the bottle of Pappy 20.
Nice.
And he made a comment because he had one. Well, he had one of the original. He had one of the original Pappies that Julian Van Winkle had put the label on himself over in Lawrenceburg.
Wow.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that's what I said. So I'm like, okay. So he said, "This is just fascinating, Freddie." He said, he said, "How did you come to know so much about whiskey? How did this all come about?" So I was telling him, I said, "Well, my granddad and Colonel Blanton met on the riverbank, a bunch of kids throwing rocks in the river, and they became friends." And he says, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "History can be baggage." I said, "Or it can be an enhancer." And I said, "For me, history had always been baggage until this moment occurred with this guy." And he was like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, what happened was my grandfather, that side of the family came from a plantation." And I said, "And when slavery was abolished, the plantation owner, he and his brother had two plantations. One did the book work, the accounting part of it, and the other took care of the operations of the plantations." And I said, "But he had a cook, and she went with him wherever he went. And along the way, they had some offspring." And he started smiling. And I said, "And part of the offspring became my grandfather." And he was like, "Really?" Now, here's the cool part. So he's got this Pappy 20, and we've been talking about it, and he's swirling around, and he's about to take a sip of it. And he says, "Freddie, that's just fascinating." He said, "Well, do you happen to know who the plantation owner was?" Now he's got the Pappy up to his lips. He's getting ready to take a drink. And I said, "Well, sure." I said, "It was Colonel West." And he drops his glass down cold, and he just stares at me. And then very, very quietly, he says, "Freddie, that's my family."
No way.
Wow.
Yes. I said, "You got to be kidding." He says, "No." He says, "I am a West."
Wow.
So we continue on with the tasting, but he kept looking at me differently. And so he said, I said, "Are you okay?" And he says, "I am just trying to process what just occurred." And he says, "Can I get back to you?" He said, "Let's continue on with the tasting." We had dinner at his place. We had a really nice evening. But he says, "Just let me get back to you." About 6 months later, he gives me a call and he says, "Can I come see you?" And I said, "Sure." And he comes in and he's got a package. Do you remember this? He went back and looked at the history of the families, and he traced everything back to us. And
Wow.
he gave me the document. He says, "Freddie, I am proud to call you my cousin."
Oh, that's so
Hey.
cool.
Isn't that crazy?
That's
So
amazing.
yeah. So of the two life-changing events for me associated
Mhm.
with bourbon. One was this moment with my dad and my brother,
Yeah.
but the other was uh, an expansion of my family and my life, which has given us just a trail that we're going through right now to look at all the other pieces. So that's why I started restoring old historical sites.
That's
Is
cool.
every time it happens, someone comes up and we find another piece that helps them with their family.
Mhm.
So that's why I said, we touch lives every day, and
That's cool.
y'all do it every day. And what you do, I would be amazed if someone could provide information back on things that y'all have shared on your podcast
Mhm.
that cause them to either go back and look at their whiskeys or their bourbons differently, or to approach how they share it with others because of what y'all have done.
Mhm.
I'll,
That'd be
I'll
so
tell
cool.
you. So back 2 years ago plus, I've been with Cole on this for about 2 years now, and before that, I was, I guess, about 5 years ago. I was just kind of getting introduced into whiskey and what different brands were and everything, and I didn't know anything about anything, and so through a coworker of mine, I found out about the Chill Filtered
Mhm.
podcast. So at that time, I was just a listener. And so I like the personal relationship side of things. So I'm the kind of guy who sends in messages on Instagram and stuff and loves
Mhm.
to chat and blah, blah, blah. And Cole and I get to the point where we're exchanging samples now. And
Mhm.
Cole ends up providing me with samples. I'm like, oh, I'm curious about this. I'm curious about that. And again, I don't know anything about anything. And Cole gives me a sample of this and he gives me a sample of that. And like 6 months later, after I learned so much more about what whiskey is what, I'm like, you gave me a sample of A. Smith Filming Craft Drink Batch 1? Like,
Yeah.
why would you give me such a prestigious like bottle sample? And it just like the connection and the generosity and sample sharing, like that is just obviously something I'm never gonna forget. When people can be so generous with something that they've put so much time and energy into acquiring, it's just so grounding. I love it.
Oh yeah.
Whiskey's not the same alone. That's why I had to
Yeah.
share, at least have a memory moment with you guys today by opening this bottle of George T. Stagg
Do
that I
it.
got 2 weeks ago.
Oh
So,
yeah.
Do it.
Hey,
Do
hey,
it.
hey, hey, Brian.
Yes.
Did you get your sample? I didn't get my sample. Did you get your sample?
Yeah, I
I
know, right?
wish I
No,
could
no, no.
send you guys a sample.
He's just now opening it. Can he just like reach through the
Yeah.
screen and just
Here you
give
guys
us
go. Give me
Hey,
your glass.
I'm scratching my screen right now. I'm trying to.
Yeah. Scratch and sniff.
Yeah.
Now, so
Yeah.
Cole's opening George T. Stagg 2025.
Mhm.
Very good. Very nice.
Wait.
Yep.
There we go.
Yay.
Go ahead, Brian.
So I have some pours. This is an occasion, and I have my occasion bottles out in front of me. I just finished a small pour of Lot B here. Very
Nice.
good, very good.
Mm.
I've got some old rip I'm about to dive into, and then I have a Pappy 15 that a very nice relationship that I have let me acquire this
That's
bottle.
good.
And then my mother-in-law won me a Pappy 20 at a raffle, so I'm drinking that as well. So how could I not drink some Pappies with Freddie here? But I understand that Freddie, you have a pour in front of you too as well.
Well, I only have one because I'm still at work. So,
There.
but yeah. So this is the most recent expression of Eagle Rare. This is the Eagle Rare
Mhm.
10-year old, which they up the proof
Oh,
just a little
12.
bit. Yeah, 10 to 12. And so at 12
Yeah.
years
Mhm.
old, they did the 95 proofs. They went from 90 to 95. So
Mhm.
5 proof points with a little bit more age on it. And it's unbelievably good. It is
It's
really,
so good.
really, it's a delightful pour. But what Brian, what you were just talking about was something that's really
Cheers.
kind of, well, you ready?
Oh,
So,
yeah.
so here's my traditional toast when we have fun.
Oh,
with
please.
these.
Yeah,
So you
bring it
ready?
on. Yep.
Since we're already into this stuff, so the toast goes like this. It's a little modification on one that's been around for a bit, but
Mhm.
there are tall ships and small ships and wooden ships. They sink. The best ships are friendships.
Oh,
And it's to those ships we shall drink. Salute, guys. All right.
Cheers.
so good.
Oh,
And we'll have some fun
Hazmat.
with this. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you mentioned something recently. I don't know if it was before we started recording or not. I think it was right before. But you said that maybe I misheard, but you said that the new George T Stagg from this year, the 142.8, is not
Mhm.
hazmat. I think I heard
Oh,
that.
no. I didn't say. I
Okay.
said that the nose
Oh
is
yeah,
not hazmat.
Oh,
that's true. That is true.
totally agree.
And I really have fun with this. I get people to so we do some of these events, and a lot of people, they try to bring out something that's really a higher proof because they have this perception about higher
Yeah.
proof products. And I
Right.
always share with them, I'll say proof and price
Mm.
are never indications of age or of quality. It's
Hmm.
just percent alcohol in that bottle and how much you're going to pay for it. So I can get my, as you well know, I can get my proof up a number of ways. It's called high and hot. But that's the beauty of when people talk about the tannins. Oh, the tannins are so pronounced. The tannin, blah, 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 blah. Well,
Hmm.
in early European days, tannin merely meant the relationship of the spirit to the wood.
Mm.
It didn't matter whether it was a brandy, a bourbon, a cognac, Scotch whiskey. It did not matter if that liquid in that container was exposed to a harsh environment, or a very damp, moist environment, or a very salty environment. That product will pick up some of the characteristics of the environment that it was aged in. So when you start applying heat, that's why some of this whiskey burns your nose, is because those volatiles have captured that heat that was associated with the
Mhm.
environment that it was aging in.
That's
So I
cool.
try to get, yeah. So that's why I always nose, to me, it's a twofold process. My nose tells me whether or not this is something I want to keep around for a while. So
Mm.
if it's not inviting to my nose,
Yeah.
uh, I don't really want it in my mouth, because it means every time I go to drink it, I've got to get past the nose on it.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's no fun. So yeah, that's no
Yeah.
fun. So
That
anyway,
leads me into a question that I would have asked, of if I made you choose, if you prefer a powerful pour or a delicate pour. It sounds like, to put
mm,
words in your mouth, you might be more on the delicate side.
no. Well,
Oh.
Oh,
that's so
Mhm.
so um you had mentioned the Pappies, okay?
yes.
For an example. So I can, if I put my barrel in the lower part of the warehouse in a cooler environment, it's going to take longer for my proof to go up, because
Mhm.
the properties of the oak, it's telosis. Those little bars running crossways of the grain will allow a certain amount of moisture, water, to pass through.
Mhm.
The alcohol molecules are larger, so they're getting trapped in the wood. So it's like marinating a piece of meat. When I take that barrel and put it down in the cool part of the warehouse, I'm planning on leaving it for a while. So that's why some of these barrels can go in, stay for a period of time, and come out, and the proof is just about the same as it was when it first went into the warehouse. It's where it's been sitting, but it gets a chance to interact with the oak.
Mhm.
So I like higher proof bourbons, and the reason I like a higher proof bourbon is it allows me to play with it. So
Yeah.
if I get something I'm not familiar with, I always get my water on the side, which is what I've got here right now,
Mhm.
and I play with it. And since each of you have a pour, we're gonna do a quick dance, and I'm gonna show you just with a little snippet. What you have is so revealing. So now, Pappy, I just had a session with Julian Van Winkle.
That's so cool.
Pat, yeah. So, oh, we do a lot of crazy stuff. So, I was
Mhm.
over. I got inducted into the International Whiskey Hall of Fame. So
That's
I
so
was just
cool.
over. Yeah. So that just happened. So I was over in
That's
Scotland.
great. Congrats.
Man, that's a whole nother story. But
Go on.
yeah. But
Write that one
so I
down.
was talking. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I was just talking. I was talking to Julian about his proofs. I said, "Man, you got some weird proofs on your bourbon."
Mhm.
And he says it's because at certain dilutions, it opens up the taste profile of what we consider a benchmark for our Pappy products.
Mm-hmm.
So I will show you this, and this is what I tell now. Freddie's 3 unspoken rules. The first is, we've already chatted about it. Okay, Cole, you only bring out your good stuff with people you like.
Yep.
That's an unspoken rule. I will not bring out good whiskey if I don't like it, because I don't want to waste it on you. That's up.
Yeah.
So the deal, though, is when I bring it out, because it's special, I want you to appreciate it. So I give you a healthy pour.
Yeah.
Right? But that's the disaster, because I'm giving you a preferred pour that I like. But the reason there's so much whiskey out there in the world is because somebody likes it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all different. So I'm giving you something that I prefer, but it may not be your cup of tea. And now what you've done is you put me in an awkward position, because now you're giving me a healthy pour of something. When I bring it up to my nose, I'm like, I don't think I want this. But you've already told me what you went through to get it, and how much you paid for it. So now I feel obligated to drink it. So now I take a sip of it. Now it's in my mouth. I'm trying my best to bring something complimentary to you, and you're in my face. Well, what do you think? Good, man? How you like
That's
that?
me. That's me.
It's good, right? It's good.
Yeah. And so you're trying to get it down, Bryan. You're like, okay. And then those words come out when you finally get it down. Oh, that was smooth. That was smooth, right?
That's great.
Well, the problem is you're going to try to get rid of it, because they're not going to let you just dump it out. So you're going to try to get rid of it. So, but you don't like it. So you just try to hurry up and just get rid of it, right? Well, I'm thinking, Bryan really likes it. I'll give him some more, right? No, here, you got to have some more, right? So the delicate dance that you have to do is, when you get to pour something that you don't like, how do I appreciate this pour without offending the person, but knowing full well that when I leave out of there, I will never buy that bottle. It's just one of those things that you do. So I tell people all the time, if you really want to help your friends and your family and your clients to appreciate a moment like that, I tell them, don't give them one pour. What you do is give them a flight. Give them 3 or 4 pours of some of your really good prize products, but only give them a small amount. It's easy to do, especially in a mini Glen or something like that. And what you do is you just tell them to nose them and taste them, and say, okay, of those, which do you prefer? Light comes on. What you're very nicely telling them is, I've given you 4 of my prize pours here, and it doesn't matter to me which one you choose. I just want you to enjoy the time we spend together. So the subtle message is, I don't care about my whiskey. I care more about us spending time together.
That's amazing. I think about, go ahead.
No, but it's an easy thing to do. But what you do is you don't waste your pour, because you only give them a small amount, and it doesn't take very much to do that. But always give them water on the side, and that will help them recalibrate the palate between each of those sips. Cool. Anyway,
I love it.
Yeah.
I used to suffer from something called fondia, and that is the fear of never drinking it again. And that's why in the past, I've been like, all right, hold on to that bottle for a little bit. And I thought to myself, out of my old default mentality, as I was looking at my George T Stagg from 2025, I was like, I wonder if I'll regret that. And then I thought to myself, I will never regret that. Because I get to spend, sadly, I can't literally share it with you guys, but I get to share this memory moment with you guys. And I'm like, there is no way I will ever regret opening that George T Stagg with you guys. It's so cool in that way.
For sure. I call them memory moments. The compliment to Bryan and I is that you think enough of us that you were willing to open a bottle. So that's, I tell people all the time, it's like, I wish that some of the friends that are no longer on this earth that I had.
Mhm.
I wish that I could go back and relive moments that I could have shared some of my good bourbon and whiskey with, and I passed on the moment. And
Mhm.
and then you ask, why didn't I bring it out? And it's like I say, you struggle with. I never thought I'd ever get this bottle. Now I've got this bottle. It's my bottle. But now what do I do with it? Is it a trophy?
Yeah.
Or is it something
Mhm.
that has a whole bunch of fun moments in it that have yet to even be experienced? And you don't
Mhm.
know that until you open up the bottle and you give someone a pour.
Mhm. You know, it's
Very true.
funny. I'm going to say something real quick because I'm taking a. I feel like I'm talking too much, but maybe I'm not.
No, we're
So,
in good shape. I'm happy here.
oh, good. So I was able to acquire a bottle of Eagle Rare 17 from this
Ooh.
prior year, 2025. That's my favorite pour of all time. Like,
Yeah.
I've had better, but that's my favorite, if that makes any sense. And this year, 2025 was a killer pour. We were able to try it on for our Christmas episode this year. And I was thinking to myself, who are the people that I want to share that with? And in like 3 weeks, I'm going on a father-son trip with my father, who sadly has stage 4 cancer. And I'm like, that's the perfect thing. Like, what I would
Yep.
like, if I had thought about it and didn't do it, that would just be wrong, because it's just like, now I get to share this moment with my dad and show him that compliment of like, there's no one I'd rather share it with than you. And hopefully, be able to share more pours with him in the future. But I would certainly regret it if I, having thought about it beforehand, if I was like, no, I'll save that for another time. No, that bottle's getting opened on our father-son trip in a few weeks. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would I would only ask that you do one thing.
Mhm.
When you open that bottle up and you all do your pour,
Mhm.
take a picture,
That's a great idea.
and then get everyone to sign and date the bottle. And then
Oh,
anyone that has a pour after that, you get them to sign the bottle and you date it. And when the bottle is empty,
mhm.
you can always put little amber colored marbles in them. And now they've got these little diodes that you can make a little lamp out of it, and you can put it right up like with your displays. Like I see your backdrop back there,
Mhm.
but that little bottle can sit there. You just turn it on. It doesn't produce any heat, but
Mhm.
people will see it, and you got all these signatures on the bottle. And
I
it
can't believe
becomes
I've never thought of that.
Such a good
Can't
idea.
believe it.
yeah. And so I mean, it used to be we'd drill that hole in the bottle and we'd put the wire through it and all that kind of
Yeah.
crap.
Mhm.
But now technology allows us to be able to put that bottle right back up with the other bottles, and you've got a reminder that that bottle would be another trophy bottle just sitting there, just
Mhm.
like the others, but no memories.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No memories.
That's beautiful.
They're
That's
just bottles
beautiful.
sitting on the shelf.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I love
So
that.
Yeah, cool.
here's a fun one for you. So I noticed you
Mhm.
sipping on your Stag there.
Mhm.
So there's this whole thing with chill filtration and non-filtration, non-chill, and
Yeah.
all this kind of, it goes back
Mhm.
and forth.
Mhm.
This one guy was grilling me about that, and he said, well, "Don't you think they take out a lot of the, the really good properties when you do the chill filtration process?" And I said, I said, "Well, let's see now. Is Pappy Van Winkle chill filtered?" And the guy looked at me. I said, "Do you like Pappy?" "Oh, I like Pappy." And I said, "Well, it's
Ooh.
chill. I know it's chill filtered." And he was like, "What?" And I said, "So yeah." I said, "So chill filtration allows you to control the amount of solids that you're going to let be in there." Now,
Mhm.
with your Stag, and he's got some Pappy there. I'm going to show you some kind of cool.
Mhm.
You got some water nearby?
I will get some in a hot moment.
All right.
I'll let you finish though.
And
Or should I
uh,
grab it now?
yes, grab your water,
Okay,
and I'm
I'll
going to
grab
show
it
you.
now.
And
Mhm.
we're going to have some fun with this real quick. So that's what I've been doing with my Eagle Rare 12 here is um, proof points a little bit higher. So while he's doing that, um, I my two favorites up until recently
Mm.
was Weller 12 and Eagle Rare 10-year-old. Those were my two favorite go-to bourbons. And it was because I couldn't get Eagle Rare 17. I couldn't get any of these other those just were hard to come by. But those two, before people started calling the Weller 12 the poor man's Pappy, you could get Weller 12 because they didn't know what was out there. And that's where I started this. I was trying to understand time in a barrel and the relationship that gets created. And when I show you this, the term for it is called acclimation. But what I want you to do for me is now you've already tasted your Stagg, and you've been tasting. Which one are you working on? You're working on your Pappy right now, Bryan?
I in the cheers I did Pappy 20, but I got my old rip now that I'm doing. We'll go with that.
So watch this. What I want you to do is I want you to take a sip of water, hold the water in your mouth, and while you're holding that sip of water in your mouth, I want you to hold the water in your mouth and take a swig of your Stagg and take a swig of your Pappy with that water in your mouth. And you will notice the change. You will actually feel the viscosity change. Thermically, you're going to feel it warming up. For you, Cole, you're going to start getting those dark cherry notes coming at you. You can actually just feel it building, and you can feel the viscosity changing. And I use the analogy of that whiskey in the bottle is like bacon drippings when they're warm. And when you put that water into your mouth, you change the temperature of the inside of your mouth, which allows those properties to start to solidify a little bit, which is the beauty of chill filtration. And it allows you to be able to taste that viscosity, that mouthfeel, that buttery stuff. But it also opens up some of those cherry notes. For you, you get some of those softer, fruity notes, Bryan. But it does it in a light way. And what you can do is you can hold different amounts of water in your mouth with these older and these higher proof products. And just by holding different amounts of water in your mouth, you get a whole different array of taste profiles associated with that product.
Yeah.
I have never done that before, and it was very telling of everything you were saying. Like, it was cool to see it like get warm immediately. Like, I was like, that liquid just changed temperature on me real quick.
Yeah.
So it's called the lingual artery. It's a vessel in your tongue. And what it does is the surface temperature of your tongue is 93 degrees. So when you put the water in there, you change the temperature of the inside of your mouth. Now you put the bourbon in there, and the heart is trying to warm the mouth back up to 93 degrees. And thermically, you can actually feel everything warming up. You can feel the viscosity change. And then as it goes back towards the back of your throat, back towards the end of your palate, you can feel the transformation as it goes back through there. And what you're left with are the lingering properties that didn't get broken down by the enzymes as you gradually do that final swallow.
Science.
I tell you,
It's really,
that's cool.
Yeah.
I have ice in my water.
Yeah. So that's why I tell people all the time, when somebody gives you a good pour, get your water on the side. And if you really want to take it to the next level, Bryan, just like you got some ice, you can take a little piece of that ice and put it in your mouth underneath your tongue and do the same thing again. And it will take you on another journey. So
I know, right? It's funny. I use that phrase all the time. Take you on a journey. That's like my top tier of like this pour. What impresses me the most is when I'm taken on a journey. I'm in a soft fruity realm, but then suddenly it swoops into a leathery realm, and it's a leathery realm. But anyway, like I love when pours take me on a journey, man. It's just the best.
Oh man, that really brings out the whiskey too. Like some of the base notes. Yeah.
And what you can do is, and if you just kind of, it's like if you've never done this with orange juice, you can do it with orange juice. You can take a swig of, like, especially freshly squeezed orange juice. You take that, you swallow the orange juice, and then right after you swallow, you go, and you just get the explosion of citric orange notes. It's really and so that's what happens there is you're letting that air get in there with it, and that air dilutes down the concentration of the alcohol volatiles and it allows the subtle notes that you would normally miss. They get an opportunity to present themselves. So Yeah.
One thing, since we're talking about water and adding water to whiskey and everything, one thing I've learned within the last like year or so is adding water to your whiskey drops usually does not change the proof anywhere near as much as you think it does. And so I bought, because I'm a nerd, I bought a mini Anton Par proof meter. And because I was like, I have to know, because part of a core tenet of this podcast is we drink every pour with neat water and ice.
Yep.
And so here I am adding about 5 drops of water to 1 ounce. And I finally actually measured how much does adding 5 drops of water to 1 ounce of whiskey change the proof? And it was like 0.2%. Like it's so tiny. So like the whole idea of having water in your mouth and then adding the whiskey too, like if anyone's out there thinking like, well, it's got to be like 50 proof by now. It's like, no, it's really not.
and I'll tell you the cool part about that. So when I started doing upper end, so we did this one with the pours were the different releases of the OFC Double
nice.
Eagle Rare 17. All right. Yeah, it was a very pricey event. So I was trying to get people to understand the problem when you start playing around with premium products. If you use the concept of I'm going to add a little bit of water to each one, well, you're going to be you're going to be sipping on them anyway. And you start doing that. The problem is if I over dilute one of my pours, I can't go back. And so I tell folks, just play around with, if you want to put those 2 or 3 drops of water in your mouth, you can do. Some people take water bottles when we're doing barrel selections. And what they do is they'll just put a little bit of water in the cap and they'll do that. Well, what it allows them to do is it's a consistent amount of water going in with their pours. The deal though is they can always go back to the selected pours from the barrel and they're still comparing apples to apples because they've not over diluted one to the other.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's a fun thing to do. It's a fun thing to do.
Yeah, we've been surprised on the podcast where certain pours where we're like, does ice make things? And there are certain even bourbons that like ice and water have been the better pour. And some purists will say that's not the way it's meant to be. But I can't go back and say it was better neat because some of those were better with water and ice. So it's cool to see.
So temperature and dilution have a lot to do with the taste profiles. I see you get ready to do another step. I'm going to show you. I want you to do it in reverse. And when you do this, you're going to go, well, I'll be dipped. So you're going to take the whiskey first, hold the bourbon in your mouth. All right. Take that swig of the bourbon, hold it in your mouth. Now, with the bourbon in your mouth, now take a swig of the water. All right. And then swallow. And you will notice nothing happens. All you got was the alcohol and it was gone.
Yeah.
That's very much true. Yeah.
So I'll say the reverse, especially with ice water, when I did ice water first and then whiskey, the sensation of the whiskey warming up the ice water was weird. But with the whiskey first, since it was so much closer to my palate temperature, the whiskey first and then the water, it was kind of just like, it wasn't nearly as sensational as water.
It was good, but it wasn't as good.
Totally.
So what about
you still get let me that's a whole nother story. But I tried he's going.
Come on, let's hear it. Bring it.
So I was doing this event and this guy had made a comment and I said, what do you do when you bring out a bottle of Pappy and somebody mixes it with Diet Pepsi?
Yeah.
And this guy says, well, first off, I don't give them any more. I said, really? I said, why's that? And he says, because it just ruined my good Pappy. Yeah. And I said, well, I'm going to tell you a story about what Freddie had to go through, and Freddie had to learn the hard way. I said, so my dad was terminally ill,
Mhm.
and if you've ever had a friend or a family member that's gone through chemo and those medications, it actually changes your sense of smell and taste. My
Mhm.
dad,
For sure.
my dad loved bacon. One morning, I was trying to fix him breakfast before I came to work down here at the distillery, and he said, "I don't know what you're doing in that kitchen." He said, "But shut it off. You're making me sick to my stomach." And I
Oh
was just
wow.
fixing this bacon.
Mhm.
So I had discovered by accident that I could take Diet Pepsi and mix it with his tea, and I would serve him that with dinner, and he would take a big gulp of this mixture, but he would eat. He stopped
Mhm.
losing weight. He got his hair back. When we go to the oncologist, she was like, Erica Pudi would say, "What are you doing? What are you doing with your dad?" And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "He's not losing weight. His strength is up. Some of his vitals they're maintaining." I said, "He eats." And she said, "And sure?" And I said, "No, he hates that stuff." I said, "He eats his dinner." And she said, "Really?" She said, "And he doesn't get sick?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Well, what are you doing?" I said, "I just mix his tea with Diet Pepsi. He takes a big gulp of it, and then he eats." And she said, "I wish more people did what you just did for your dad." And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "For your father, the chemical composition of the Diet Pepsi and the tea neutralized the metallic taste
Oh,
and the
nice.
off-putting smell. It's like neutralizing sulfur water."
Mhm.
I just did it because I was trying to figure out how do I take care of my dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one evening he was so happy I came back to be with him. One evening I come in. I had a wonderful tour that day. It was a really nice group of people. So I come in and I grab the George T. Stagg because he wanted to do a toast every evening for another day on this earth together.
Oh.
That
Yeah.
was what we would do. That was our salute to the Almighty.
I love
So
that.
I pour Miss Stagg in the glass, and I pour some for myself, and he brings it up to his nose, Cole, and he goes like, I mean, he's all excited at first, and he brings it up to his nose, and he looks at me. Now, Dad is one of the guys with Leonard Riddle and Ronnie Edens and Elmer and them that did the antique collection. They were the
Oh,
creators
it's
of the
so cool.
antique collection. So he gets it up to his nose, and he looks at me, and he's like, "Well, what are we drinking tonight?" And I said, "Dad," I said, "it's one of your favorites." And he takes a sip of it and he makes that Mr. Yuck face.
Mm.
He says, "Oh man, I can't drink this one." I said, "Dad, this is one of your favorites." And he says, "Freddie, I cannot drink this whiskey." And it was George T. Stagg. And I'm like,
Mhm.
something bad's going on here. So I said, "Okay, well, let me try this little Diet Pepsi thing
Mhm.
with Stagg and see what happens." Take his glass in the other room, go in there, dump some Diet Pepsi in there with it, throw in an ice cube to cool it down, swirled it around, brought it back to him. And I said, "Okay, Dad, try this one, see if you like it better." My dad just swirls it around, brings it up to his nose, and he smiles. And he takes a swig of it. Oh, my dad got so excited. He says,
Nice.
"Freddie," he says, "I can drink it. I can drink it, Freddie." I said, "Dad," I said, "it's the same hooch." I said, "All I did was dump some Diet Pepsi in there with it and threw in an ice cube."
I love
And
it.
my father just looked at me and he says, "It doesn't matter, son." And I said, "I beg your pardon?" He said, "Freddie, it doesn't matter what you did to it." He said, "What's more important?" He says, "Freddie, I get to enjoy another drink with you."
Oh.
Yeah. I love
And
that.
so when I told this guy's wife started crying
Oh.
because something like that had happened to them.
Oh,
And
wow.
and so and so my dad says, when you take people around, he says, like we were talking about earlier, he said, there's always going to be more whiskey, but those moments with special friends may not happen ever again. So you can't worry about how your friends drink it because sometimes you don't even know their medical baggage. You
Mhm.
don't know why they're drinking a certain way. And sometimes they're not comfortable talking about, like you were just talking about with the cancer thing. It's like,
Mhm.
it's a point where you're carrying these things around, but you're not comfortable enough with them to share them.
Mhm.
And so you just keep them inside. And usually what's crazy is it's like what Bryan was talking about a moment ago. Usually it's a moment that you interact with someone that you feel comfortable sharing my lack of knowledge or my questions that I've always wanted to ask somebody, but I was afraid to answer because I didn't want to look like I was stupid or have people make fun of me and all. And all of a sudden, when you find these people and you have these moments and you bring these good pours out, uh, that is the beginning. That is the beginning of the relationship. All right. It's not the whiskey. The whiskey is just your catalyst that provides you the opportunity to spend that time and to grow emotionally within your own self.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Totally.
So I,
Yeah. In there, you said the word of the day. Our longtime listeners are going to know exactly where I'm headed with this. but okay, but
I
no,
don't like this.
Hold on, please hold. This is it. This is a moment of truth for Cole and me here. There's a 4-letter word that starts with T. It's something that the distillery offers. There's typically a guide involved that takes you on a
tour.
No.
Yeah.
So I'm a believer in the very short, very quick, 1-syllable word tour. But Bryan and some of my other other people in my life say tour, which you definitely, and if anyone in this world I would trust to teach me how to say that word, it would be you. So I guess I'm pronouncing it wrong at this point. Yeah, not tour. Yes. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So yeah. So you, well, or you can be from Louisville.
Oh no, Louisville. Yeah, that's great.
Oh, that's so funny.
One other thing, Freddie, I heard you say you're like, Weller 12 and Eagle Rare 10.
Yeah.
Until recently.
Yeah.
That's the word, the phrasing you use is until recently. So what's your favorite lately?
So that's my dilemma is I really like the soft caramel toffee notes that I get with Eagle Rare.
Nice.
The Eagle Rare 12-year-old just takes it up a little bit.
And
so I found that, yes, yeah, it's got, there's a little bit of a richness there that I guess it's coming from the oak. The color's a little bit darker on it, if you've noticed. So it's a wee bit older. Traditional Eagle Rare was 10 to 12 years, but it was a batch. Okay. So when we say an age statement of 12 years, it means the youngest barrel in the Eagle Rare 12 is 12 years old, but it can be older. So you got this crazy window. If you think about it, you've got Eagle Rare 10-year-old, you've got Eagle Rare 12, then you've got George T. Stagg, which is the same recipe. And then you go to Eagle Rare 17, which is 101. So even if you wanted to have some, oh man, don't get me started with this. But anyway, if you wanted to have some fun, you could do just a mini flight of the 10-year-old, the 12-year-old, and the Eagle Rare 17. And you're going from 90 to 95 to 101. And if you take it to if you go to the Eagle Rare 20, it's 101.
I'm not sure I can ever take it there personally. I'm not sure. I'm not sure my wallet's big enough for that.
Yeah. Well, but I just did an event. Only 6 pours, and Ryan, this is I call you Ryan, it's Bryan, but only 6 pours. Ready? And you take it from the wheated whiskey White Dog. That's your first pour. Your second pour is Green Label Special Reserve, which is 90 proof, right? And then here's what you do: you lock in on the proof. The next release is Antique 107.
Nice.
All right. So then you're going to lock in on the 107 proof. So the next time you see a wheated product from us at 107, it's Old Rip Van Winkle, the one you were just talking about.
Nice.
107 proof. The next time you see 107 proof, it's Old Rip Van Winkle, 15 years old. Pappy Van Winkle. All right. And then your last pour is your Weaver Weller, which is the same
Nice.
age. But what you do is you bring it up and you lock in on the palate at a certain proof.
Mhm.
And you can actually appreciate what that time in a barrel does, the mouthfeel, how it lingers, the subtle nuances that come out, because you're not yanking the palate around with proof elevations and drops.
Totally.
So the proof stays the same.
Yeah.
And you go from its infancy. Go ahead.
Mhm.
Brian, go ahead.
Personally, when I do tastings and things for people, I lock in on the proof. I do not want to yank people around low to high because that's exhausting palate wise.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. And so they can't really appreciate the experience because they're busy trying to acclimate from one proof to the next, and what am I missing? And if I've overwhelmed the palate and I don't really cleanse the palate, I'm going to miss some of this stuff, especially if I'm going from a higher proof and I'm dropping down significantly. I miss 3/4, and I'm busy struggling with that. You're busy trying to move forward with the tasting, but that person is still lost back
Mhm.
in trying to figure out what just happened in my
Mhm.
mouth, because I'm still trying to get to where you were before. So I think that it's interesting that if we're in the habit of drinking and sipping, and we have newcomers, we are so inclined to move on, and we
Right.
don't really think about bringing this other person with us. So the
Right.
beauty in the introduction of a newbie is kind of like Cole, what you did with Brian.
Mhm.
If we go quietly into the night, you're not overwhelming me,
Mhm.
and I can dance. I can keep up with the tempo and the music because I'm trying to process new experiences, new taste, new encounters on my palate, things that all of a sudden I'm in the habit of my whiskey going across the top of my palate, and I be dipped. Now this one's underneath my tongue, and it's all in the back of my throat, and I'm not really sure what I'm tasting because I'm trying to figure all this out because I'm getting new experiences,
Mhm.
and that's the beauty of backing up and saying, okay, let's go back and revisit this again. Now that we've gone to this one, let's go back and revisit this one again and see if there's
Yeah.
something else that maybe you experienced, but you didn't really know how to put your finger on it.
Mhm.
Earlier, you mentioned Eagle Rare 17, 101 proof, but Eagle
Yeah.
Rare 17 hasn't always been 101 proof. So,
No.
like me
Mhm.
personally, I have personally never tasted a 90 proof Eagle Rare 17 before. I'm curious, not as a Buffalo Trace employee, like your
Mhm.
personal opinion, how do you feel on the Eagle Rare 17 90s versus the Eagle Rare 17 101s?
This is a great question because I'm pretty familiar. Go ahead, Freddie.
So I did not even know this was, many, many years ago. One of my favorite bourbons was Eagle Rare 10-year-old 101. I started like
Oh.
that was in an old dark little squatty looking bottle and
Yep,
profile.
I remember. Yeah.
That was my Eagle Rare 101. That was my benchmark for Eagle Rare.
Nice.
Isn't that crazy? So
Mhm.
when it went to 90 proof, um, it was just a softer expression, but there were enough things in there that it supported the benchmark, my first encounter with Eagle Rare. So I fell in love with Eagle Rare even before Eagle Rare. And the other thing that was kind of cool, Eagle Rare 10-year-old 101. All right. It was a single barrel. And
Mhm.
then, but think about this one. All right. It never won any awards. So Brian, what blows your mind on this one is they took that Eagle Rare single barrel concept, made it into a small batch, dropped the proof to 90 proof, and it became the first 10-year-old bourbon to ever win double gold 5 consecutive years in a row at the International Spirits Tasting.
Wow.
I love Eagle Rare
So,
10.
yeah, because it's one of those that I can just chill with it. There's not a lot of
Mhm.
heat. it's just a nice, pleasant sipping product. That's why I
Mhm.
like it. Um, and then when they took it up a notch or two, I'm still getting acclimated to it. And that's
Mhm.
even while we're sitting here talking, um, I'm playing with this. So I'm over here and I'm
Mm.
playing with it in the water, and I'm looking at, okay, is it the conversation? Is it me just sipping back and forth? Is it playing around with different amounts of water? Um, what is it that's really getting? And I'm hitting it pretty hard here. So I'm. But my point, but my point is that our exchanges, and while you are sharing, I'm getting a chance to just let it linger,
Mhm.
Good.
and I'm playing around with it on my tongue, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I could really get into this. But I still I pick up, uh, I guess some heavier notes is what I'm picking up on the Eagle Rare 12-year-old.
Mhm.
It's not bad, but the properties are different. The mouthfeel
Totally.
Yeah.
yeah, totally different from the
Mhm.
Eagle Rare 10-year-old at 90 proof.
Yeah.
So
I'll tell you what we have tasted. We have tasted an Eagle Rare 12, one bottle.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm under the impression that Eagle Rare 12 is at least almost a single barrel. Is it the thing where, well, anyway, no, we won't get into
Well,
that.
Eagle Rare 10, you mean, right?
no,
But well, so
the 12.
12, the difference
Oh.
that Cole and I have tasted between 12 and
Mhm.
10 is that the one bottle of 12 that we've tasted has been way more on the wood spice side
Yep.
versus the 10 ended up way more on the rich, fruity apple cherry side.
Yep.
I was curious, do you have any personal experience tasting a wider range of Eagle Rare 12 barrels? And are they all more wood spicy, or is it kind of all across the spectrum?
The oak is a little bit more influence, has a little
Mhm.
bit greater influence on it for sure. And the other thing that you can do is that's what I was doing here is, um, you can experience a little bit of the influence of the oak because it leaves a little bit of a dry kind of a
Mhm.
mouthfeel,
Yeah,
and that is the oak that does that. So
makes
that's
sense.
where that
Mhm.
dryness comes from.
Yeah,
And you definitely picked that up on the 12. So
Nice.
yeah.
very good, very good.
Hey, we try. We try our best.
Yeah, we
Um,
do our best. Mhm.
so I would love to drag us into the engineer side of things. I
Yeah.
am an engineer. I understand you have a background in engineering,
Yeah.
where you worked at AT&T as a network engineer for a while. I'm curious, what kind of brought you back after your career with AT&T? What brought you back into the family legacy there? If there's a story behind all that, and
Yeah.
I'm also curious about in the engineer side of things that you've brought to the Buffalo Trace Distillery. Like, have there ever been any fun and interesting problem solving that required real engineering thought that have happened at the Buffalo Trace Distillery?
N- So the things that in that environment, um, that's where Harlan Wheatley comes in. So
Mhm.
Harlan Wheatley actually has two engineering degrees.
No way.
So yeah,
Oh,
oh yes, and one's in biochemical engineering.
Mhm.
So he looks at structures, designs, and layouts. So what very few people realize, when those settlers first came out here, I always joke about it all the time. When I played in here, I was fascinated with not the obvious things. I always tell people on my tours, look beyond the obvious.
Mhm.
It's not the fact that it's a brick building. You have to look at the pattern of the brick, and you have to look at the texture of the brick, and you will notice it's very porous. It's hand pressed clay bricks, so the brick actually breathe. They absorb moisture like a sponge. It's by
mhm,
design. And then the other piece is they're configured in such a way that every sixth row, the brick point inward.
Mhm.
So it's called the King's Row. So these buildings are designed to implode on themselves,
Oh.
to trap the barrels within that building so they don't burn down the rest of your distillery.
Oh, wow.
Having said that, like Warehouse C, the original warehouses basically had raised floors. It was for maximum air circulation. The ambient temperature of the Earth is about 51 to 52 degrees. So what happens is when Taylor built these things, those guys that came out here understood the rotation of the Earth. And Warehouse C is probably the coolest one because you can look. The gift center is in Warehouse A. It's a long rectangular building with very few windows. The aging in that was entirely different because it was based on barometric pressures. And then Warehouse C, which sits right across the street from it, is a big box with windows all around it, but it was based on the rotation of the Earth. So when you do walkabouts in Warehouse C, or you go to different levels in Warehouse C and you do walkabouts, you can actually feel and smell and sense the different locations and how the atmosphere changes. You can feel subtle breezes. You can see how the sun shines in on certain barrels, and you can actually look at those barrels that have been sitting there for a bit, and you see this pretty. I call them honey barrels. You get this pretty coloration. It's not just on the heads; it's on that whole barrel, and it's where that sun is gently sweeping the side of that barrel for 12 years because we don't rotate our barrels and move them around. So they didn't just happen to build these old buildings. The north side, the sun never shines on the barrels. So it's yucky and mucky and it smells funky over there. And you got all the mold and the dust and the dirt. But that's Pappy Land.
Nice.
So,
I love that.
So yeah.
Pappy
So
Land.
yeah. And so you learn when you do, I call them walkabouts. I do walkabouts. Um, it's funny that you were mentioning, Bryan, you were mentioning about my engineering piece. I am still fascinated. I still walk around this distillery looking at things that they have done, and it's like, okay, why did they do that? They don't even talk about, I mean, when you talk about these old buildings holding all this weight, they don't talk about expansion joints. They don't talk about movements of the earth. Think about this. These old buildings have been around here since the 1800s. And the earth constantly moves. People just don't realize it. But that's why the walls in your house crack and stuff like where the earth settles and all this kind of cool stuff.
Yeah.
And so these buildings had to be structured in such a way that as those movements occurred, the integrity of the structure was not compromised. And you just look at stuff and you look at how the beams are put together. You look at how they did notches. The engineering term is called Morse tandem, how you hew out beams and interlock them together so that they can flex without, compromising the integrity of the structure. And I'm going like, holy crap. They didn't have Google back in the day.
No.
And they didn't have specs and parameters. Yet so they figured all this stuff out. So that to me is a joy of being at a place like this. And I go to some of the other distilleries. I love going down and spending time with Corky down at Peerless because he's in an old building down there. I can do stuff over at Wild Turkey. I go over there and hang out with those guys over there. But there are only a few structures left that have not been repurposed into something else that you can actually look and see the influence of where whiskey barrels sat in those old buildings. So yeah. Anyway, so I get off on that kind of stuff. Yes. So that to me,
sure.
And that's why I like to when we have kids on my tours and stuff. I realize that the parents are there. That's why the kids are there. Kids would probably be preferred to be somewhere else, but I engage them. It's called inclusion. And I engage them in looking around and we might play around with some corn and I'll ask them a little bit about the corn. And so now they're processing some of the corn and you can actually chew it. It tastes like crunchy popcorn.
Nice.
And we'll get them to get some of that. But it plants seeds with them. And the kids that experience this with their parents are the ones that built this distillery. Remember, everybody started off as kids. So there were skill sets that they were learning along the way. They just didn't realize the skills that they were acquiring until the opportunity presents itself. And that's when you stumble upon doing things like what you're doing right now. Your ability to communicate and create images while you're chatting with them and they're sipping on their bourbon, you create an atmosphere that allows them to visualize. And it's their experiences, their life experiences, and they start coming up with these things, and it helps them to appreciate the pour because it's based on the mental image that you've allowed them to create that helps them to appreciate the pour that you're talking about. I
Mhm.
mean,
Cool.
and that's a skill set in itself that you guys have. And sometimes we get so caught up in the whiskey that you forget that you are actually allowing people to take a journey with you.
hmm
Okay, and that makes them come back and want to spend more time with you.
For
That's
sure.
cool. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
I got a question for you, Freddie. When I went on my tour in
Uh-oh.
2016,
You know,
um,
some of those places I'm not allowed to take you anymore.
oh, that's great. Is Warehouse X off limits?
Well, that's only for very special occasions do we go to Warehouse X.
That's cool. No,
Like
yeah.
when the Chill Filtered podcast visits.
Ayo.
We might do that, and so
That
that
was
would
great.
be that we can't film inside of the ice box,
Fair.
which is the last drop. But we can go up to the
Ooh.
farm, and
That's
we can
cool.
look. And so that's a whole new set of warehouses up there that are the only ones like it in the world. So
Sign me
That's
up.
cool.
Sign me up.
But you mentioned, I don't know if it's still, I imagine it is still Buffalo Trace's motto, or maybe it's not the motto, but it's something that's brought up a lot. It was, give me 1 second.
he's going
Is it
to
on
honor
the
tradition.
Single Oak Project bottles?
Honor or embrace or honor tradition,
Embrace change.
embrace change.
You got it.
And I was lucky enough to find me a bottle or barrel 80 of the Single Oak Project. And
You know, 80,
and
wait. You know, 80 was the winner, right?
oh, I know. That's
Oh,
why I
we
was
know.
so happy to get it. And it is. We recently did a blind on all the. I own 7. Bryan owns 2 or 3, and I did a blind on it. And I was like, Barrel 80 was the winner of all the ones I got to try,
Isn't that
and
crazy?
very clearly to me. But I wonder, how is Buffalo Trace doing on that motto still these days? I mean, don't get me wrong, I believe it, but do you know anything about the embracing change, especially that they've been doing
Oh, yeah.
lately? Nice.
So remember, the only restrictions for bourbon,
hmm
the dominant grain has to be corn, 51%
Yep.
corn, newly charred oak container. Okay. Entry proof, distillate proof coming off the still, no higher than 160. Entry level, no higher than 125.
Yep.
There is nothing in the rule book about anything else. There's nothing in the rule book about the species, the country of origin, the color. There's nothing in there about roasting and toasting and all these kinds of crazy stuff.
Enzyme rich baths.
So I mean, so the sky is the limit. So surrounding right here, if you come to Buffalo Trace today, Cole, you would be surrounded by roughly 1.7 million barrels of whiskey.
I love it.
The cool part is not that, it's the one that you're just talking about, like barrel number 80. So of those, at this point, well over 2,000 of those 1.7 million barrels are experimental.
That's cool.
So our belief is the best bourbon is yet to be made. The kicker is just like, golly, I was just thinking about all the things that we've covered, but it takes us all the way back to the benchmark. So the cool part about what we're doing is this: if we stumble upon something that is good and we make it, the expectation is they want more. We're going to make more, but they also expect it to taste like the one that they first encountered.
Totally.
So So that's why when people talk about, well, are you going to make some more of that E.H. Taylor tornado survive in bourbon? We hope no,
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
because we would never
I
be able
love
to
that.
replicate those conditions that would bring
Mhm.
out those flavors, because that was a one and done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you
But
can't
that's what,
replicate that tornado.
Yeah. Well, you
no,
could, but you don't want to. Yeah.
well, that, and
Yeah.
if you think about, all the atmospheric conditions that were
Mhm.
associated with that particular moment, well, the other
Yeah.
cool part is the big old sycamore trees. Some of these sycamore trees were over 300 years old,
That's
that
cool.
it just picked those suckers up and completely tossed them out of the way. So
Wow.
that whole section, so the airflow associated with when the tornado came through here was changed when the tornado came through. So we can never replicate what that tornado did, because that area is no longer here. It's gone.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So I just find this whole thing fascinating. But we're well over 2 million data points in things that the atmosphere does that causes molecules to move around inside of a barrel.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm pumped about tomorrow. So barrel number 80. Let's get back to barrel number 80.
Tomorrow? Go on, go
Tomorrow?
on.
Sorry, you said the word tomorrow?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
So
crazy.
it was supposed to have been released this year. So 2026, they were supposed to do a release of barrel number 80.
Mhm.
We're not really sure what's going to happen. The flood kind of changed things around a wee bit
For
for us.
sure.
Uh,
Mhm.
and then they had some other issues to deal with. But
Mhm.
it is definitely on the radar. And actually, it wasn't just barrel number 80. 80 was one of five that
Ooh.
fell into that window.
Yeah.
But 80 got the most votes, so that's why they did that one first. So,
Mhm.
but you'll be hearing more about that starting with barrel number 80.
Yeah. Is there, sometimes you can't say stuff and that's fine, but like, are you able
Yeah.
to see what the other four were? Like 80
I would
and?
be very interested. Yeah.
Mm, yeah, and
And
Was it 79?
okay. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me take this in another direction.
Yeah.
What I noticed was when I was looking at the chart, because it's all online and it's all on that
Mm.
singleoakproject.com.
Yeah.
That's not what it is,
Something
but
like that, yeah.
yeah,
you can see all the variables. And the neat thing to me, what I honed in on first was, okay, what are all the ones where the major variables are like barrel 80? And
Yeah.
what it turns out
Mhm.
is 74 through 80 are all rye bourbon. They're all barrel entry proof 125, and they're all something else I can't remember. And
Probably.
the
Yeah.
interesting thing is, when we did our blind the other day, I
Mhm.
had 74, 79,
Mhm.
and 80 in my blind.
Ooh.
What were ranks 1 through 3 for me?
Those
74,
three.
79, and 80. And all the rest were below that. It's like, sure enough, it turns out that the
Mhm.
barrel entry proof 125 rye bourbon and whatever else that's in the
Yeah,
74 through 80 range is like the
Mhm.
key recipe, in my opinion. So that's where I
yeah.
landed. And I was like, when I was like, so what are the other ones other than 80? I was hoping you were going to be like 74, 75, 76, 77.
Yeah.
Well, so it's kind of crazy. So Brian,
Mhm.
you're actually honing in on something. So the other two components that you did mention was barrel number 80 came from the bottom half of the tree.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And the other thing that you might want to look at is number of growth rings per inch.
Mhm.
Right.
Do you think
So
that's
yeah,
the big factors, the big variables?
yeah, we're learning
That's
from that.
interesting.
So yeah,
Mm.
one of the things, I mean, you heard a lot a little while back about Mizunara oak,
Yeah.
Right.
and those barrels cost between $3,000 and $5,000 a piece just for
Goodness,
the
that
barrel,
much?
just for the
Wow.
barrel. Well, the trees were 300 to 500 years old. Um,
Wow.
the deal though is the growth, the growing seasons were very, very short. So it's a very dense wood. So you had a lot of growth
Mm.
range per inch. And what they discovered from that was taking those barrels from that environment, that really cold environment in northern Japan, and bringing them to Kentucky, where you have temperature fluctuations of 20 and 30 degrees every day. The whiskey
Mhm.
was expanding faster inside the barrels than the pores would allow that water to come out to let it breathe. So you had a lot of leakage, you had a lot of loss associated with those barrels, and you weren't able to get the flavors that you want to until you had to change the environment to the environment that the tree grew up in. And once we did that, then we were able to slow the process down. So those particular barrels are not designed for your traditional bourbons as we know them today. They're the ones that you want to leave around for a long, long time.
I totally believe it. So
Yeah.
I'm big into music. My mom was a vocal music teacher for 25 years, and I've played like every instrument. I've got guitars, I've got a piano, and it's funny the consideration you have to take for a dry environment like Phoenix. And and like when I lived in Wichita, Kansas, like I never heard anyone mention humidifiers for guitars. And you bet in Phoenix, people have humidifiers in their guitars in order to keep the wood moisturized to the correct level and everything.
Look at you.
So yeah.
So we're gonna have to figure out a way of getting our craft woodworking group. We now take the cigar boxes and we make electric guitars out of them. So at one of your adventures down through here, Bryan, we're gonna have to get him to. I like his Cohiba cigar boxes.
Yeah.
So he's got
Nice.
the blue and the black boxes. They make unbelievably just not only nice presentation, but it's good to play with them. But he actually takes the neck the neck is made out of a barrel stave, and he's got a process for which he straightens it out and locks them in, puts a preamp down inside the cigar box, and it's kind of a fun thing. Well, people have been buying them, and I'm like, gosh, where are they playing these things? Well, most of them are making rooms. They're taking the Weller bourbon and the cigars, and they're making a big room out of its decoration, and they're not even playing them. And I'm like, oh my God.
Oh.
So that's not the intent. That's almost like a good bottle of bourbon. You're sticking it up there as a trophy. And
exactly. Yeah.
But,
we all feel the same way about that. But before we get too far away from the Single Oak Project stuff, just curious, like, what are you most excited about for this release? Like, so to understand this, the Single Oak Project release is highly anticipated from the Chill Filter podcast.
This is my favorite pour of all time, or not favorite. This is the best pour of all time.
So what would you, if you look at your portfolio of products that you've got stashed away around there, what do you have that you would do a comparison to that Single Oak 80 with?
Honestly, the best thing I could go is seasoned wood, E.H. Taylor. Outside of that, honestly, Eagle Rare 10 is
proof is king. Proof is king here. It absolutely cannot be. Well, I say absolutely cannot be, but like I would like it to not be over 100 proof. It would ideally be 90, right around there, assuming that's where you're going to proof the new one. You don't. I'm not trying to get any information out of you or anything. But as you saw, Cole has an original 80. We've got a ton of other Single Oak projects too. But yeah, low proof, wheated or rye recipe, however it aligns. You're talking to like anyone who's a longtime listener knows how much I love doing comparison pours, and I put too much thought into making sure that what I'm drinking aligns with comparison and everything. I love this stuff.
And so we're on the same page. So and when you start doing that, I think you approach bourbon differently. I am so excited about when I do. That's why I was asking if he had done that. Is to take some of these experimentals, even some, every now and then we'll do an experimental release, some of our experimental stuff, and you can take those and you can do those and try to compare them to some of the other stuff that we were doing, like when we did the one with the infrared light and all the other kooky stuff that we did. So it doesn't mean that we want to make that product every day, but it's nice to be able to understand what if. And
Mhm.
if you do this, what is the result of that? So even the 4-grain, the H. Taylor 4-grain,
That was good.
uh, it was almost not done.
Mhm.
So there's the only other one that's out there. I call it the the initiator of all this was, if you remember, Woodford did a 4-grain many
Mhm.
years ago. But it wasn't it was I'll just say it nicely. It wasn't my cup of tea.
No, I agree.
Fair.
One of
And but
those tall bottles they used to do. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
but it had a lot of oil. It had a lot of it reminded me of diesel, kind of to the
Mhm.
nose. Diesel. Um, and so we had to go beyond the obvious. And
Mhm.
so when that happened, we experienced the same thing, and it plateaued. And they were like, okay, well, enough of this. And then it crashed,
Mhm.
and it was really, it went down into that where Woodford said we need to go on and just bottle this and
Mhm.
Right.
try to cover. It was more like, let's cover our losses. It's kind of like when Dan and
Totally.
Charlie, yeah. So, but what happened was Holland said, no, we're not going to write it off. Let's just
Mhm.
leave the barrels alone. He says something is going on chemically. We talk about infusion, molecular interaction. Harlem was like, no, something's going on here. He said, let's just leave him alone for a while. They left
Mhm.
him alone, and that sucker took back off again, and boom,
Ooh.
that's when you
Love
get your
that.
E.H. Taylor 4-grain.
Mhm.
So we're learning
Wow.
that there are things that go on with those different um, ingredients
Yeah.
associated with the recipe. But that's Mother Nature and Father Time. And so what we're learning is you can't rush that. So things that we're playing with today in 2040, 2050, 2060, you're going to be doing a podcast on them.
I'm
Heck
into
yeah.
that.
And they're in the warehouse right now.
Mhm.
So that's why I say, Bryan, just hang on. More and more of these will be revealed, but we're learning different parts of the forest. It's just like a vineyard.
Mhm.
Those trees, after 70 to 100 years, picking up whatever grew around the base of that tree. Uh, the foliage, decomposing vegetation, uh, anything else that's around there, those roots pick those flavors up. So when they pull them
Mhm.
up into the wood, based on where that tree is growing in the forest, those are the flavors you're going to be extracting out. But you've got to give Mother Nature the opportunity to present them. And if you're trying to rush and just get some whiskey to market, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
That's
So
cool.
Well, playing right into this, not rushing, not getting whiskey to market. Sometimes you got to wait for things to turn.
yeah.
Cole has a question that must be asked about the year that George T. Stagg was not released.
All right, 2021. Here we go. We've seen Harlan Wheatley mention that it wasn't up to par
Mhm.
for the 2021 George T. Stagg release. So we had a 4-bottle BTAC release in 2021. My theory, as I've mentioned to David Bach in Virginia, my theory here is that we are presenting ourselves with the opportunity for a quote double George Very Stagg release. And I would like to ask your opinion on Double George Very Stagg. Any pointing
Has that name
theories
already
there?
been trademarked? Trademark that name?
So
No,
what are we doing with those 2021 barrels?
we left them alone.
Oh,
We
yeah?
just
Have,
we just
do you
left them
know if
set.
they've been touched since?
Some of them, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So
Nice.
the deal was, it was never said that they were bad.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's just that you have to try to imagine what they're trying to do. So this thing about atmospheric changes,
Mm-hmm.
it's really true.
Mm-hmm.
So what they try to do is, we're putting a barrel. Remember, we don't rotate our barrels around.
Mm-hmm.
So we are trying to project when we put a barrel in a certain spot in the warehouse based on what we want it to be when it grows up. something that's going to be 20, 25 years or more, and you're putting it in this spot now, saying that in 25 years it should get to where we think it's for what we're looking for. And so, yeah.
Go ahead.
So an example of that would be what happened when we start off joking about the George T. Stagg at 116 proof. It went in the barrel. It went in the barrel at 125, 15
No way,
years
yeah.
prior.
Mm-hmm.
So how in the heck does it go from 125, 15 years? If it's supposed to be, water's supposed to be evaporating out and the proof's supposed to be going up. How in the heck did it get to 116 if you didn't add anything to it? Because you just dumped it right out of the barrel. And so that shows you that there are things that Mother Nature does, and high humidity levels, okay, can affect the proof of whiskey in a barrel. So so we're learning as we go. So as we try to come up with different expressions, if we stumble upon something that works, who's to say that we didn't learn from where we put those barrels? Okay, and who's to say that that doesn't set the stage that says maybe we can make a 40 or 50-year-old bourbon by putting it in certain ports of certain warehouses without having to do anything else but just leave it alone. So to me, the mind-boggling spot is if you wanted to just go really nerdy, you could do it with Mash Bill 1. Brian's getting pumped over here. So I mean, so just take Mash Bill 1 and start with benchmark, all the different expressions benchmark just based on where it sits in the warehouse. And then you go to E.H. Taylor, which is the same recipe, and you got all those different expressions of E.H. Taylor, with the exception of the rye. Okay. And then you go to Buffalo Trace. And then from Buffalo Trace, you go to George T. Stagg, which was the Stagg Jr. before. And then you go to Eagle Rare 10, then you go to Eagle Rare 12. You begin to make sense. Then you go to George T. Stagg Uncut, then Eagle Rare 17, Double Eagle, Eagle Rare 25, and some of the others that are out there that maybe will soon be announced. But that's my point is that, and none of these expressions, think about this, none of these expressions have taken on the pronounced oakiness of the Pappy 23 or the Pappy 25. It's just not there. So what we're learning is, so that the dominant influence of the tannins and that char over time is not a favorable something that you look for on the palate. There's very few people that look for very few people have ever tasted Pappy 25 anyway. But if you taste it, it's very, very, very oaky.
I could imagine.
Well, we're willing to do an episode on it.
Talking to you, Corey. No kidding.
Corey, are you there?
Corey's probably just smiling to himself.
That's amazing. So
silly.
I'll say this, that your response to that question has actually solidified my belief in Double George Berry Stagg. So
yes, you're welcome to use that name as you move forward. You're welcome to use that name.
I will not take money for that one when you guys do well with it. So
just in the bottle.
Well, so in the world that we live in, we have so much stuff going on right now. So to say that we would never do something, we'd never say that. But I just tell everyone, the world is a fascinating place. But we get so caught up in the here and now, the today, that we lose sight of the fact that what we're enjoying today. I just had an event, like I say, last night, and this guy pulled out one of the old bottles, one of the old Dusties, and I said, it's hard to imagine that we are sitting here and just thoroughly enjoying something that my dad and Elmer and some of these other guys never even got a chance to taste. So, so I, like I say, we believe that the best bourbon is yet to be made. And as long as you guys stay excited, that tells us that we're heading in the right direction.
No
Yeah.
doubt.
I
No
love it. I
doubt.
love it.
Any go ahead, Bryan. Last question, hopefully. So
Yeah. The one that I wanted to get out when we were talking about engineering stuff, this probably the question I wanted to ask the most from an engineering perspective. What is it about creating bourbon that fascinates you the most in the distillation process or in the aging process? From an engineering perspective, what is it that you look at and you're like, man, I just can't believe that works out that way?
It's all of those things. It's all of those things. I had this this group that came through, and they were trying to understand how a column still works. And they were trying to understand if Taylor started this back in the 1800s, what was that all about? And I said, we joke about the Irish being firemen, like up in New York. I used to work up on 6th Avenue in New York. And I said,
Nice.
you know, and they had all the Irish pubs up there, and they had the Dalmatians and the Macy's Day Parade, all that kooky stuff. I said, and people joked about it. I said, but they really were firemen. And this one guy says, what do you mean? I said, to make good whiskey, you had to know how to build a fire. I said, because you had to bank the fire in such a way that you had a consistent temperature coming off of that fire, because that's going to control the proof of your whiskey in the still. And I said, so if the still gets too hot, I said, the proof of your whiskey goes down. And the guy says, what? And I said, yeah. I said, and it can ruin it. And I says, and if the fire is not hot enough, the proof goes up too high and all you get is alcohol. And I said, alcohol is a lower boiling point than water. So when you go down through that still, the flow rate going through your still is going to determine, and the temperature of your steam, that's going to determine your proof. And I said, so your objective is the beauty of column stills. We get into a lot of discussion about that, but the beauty of a column still is if I have a volume of mash that I can send through that still at a consistent flow rate, and I've got enough steam that I can produce heat at a certain temperature for an extended period of time, that proof will lock in, and it will be that proof through the whole run. I said, there's an art to doing that. So once you get past your head, and then once that temperature starts, once your volume goes down or your temperature starts to change, you're going to hit your tail. I said, but that little sweet spot in the middle, that's what you play with. Now that's just that piece. But now, as you know, I can play with how long do I leave it in the fermenter.
Yeah.
And that's like taking sweet milk to sour milk to buttermilk to cottage cheese to cheddar cheese to blue cheese.
For sure.
All right. And then I can play around with my char level of my barrels. I can play around where I get my barrels from. I could, so you start looking at the different variables and you start putting those pieces together, and you realize we've got these mad scientists. We've got the Bryans out there that are busy saying, what if? Right? And some of those what ifs, what we're doing now is more and more folks are documenting their what ifs.
That's cool.
It used to be you felt like if I kept it to myself, nobody will know what I'm doing to make this good whiskey. The problem with that is no one will ever know. And so you make a good batch, something happens to you, you have a stroke. You're trying to tell them you're screwing up, but you can't get it out.
Yeah.
So the beauty of, I tell people all the time, the beauty of making a good product, no matter what it is, no matter what your business, the beauty is inclusion. And as long as you put together a team and you basically share your information and you put those pieces together, you can always make a better product, and it will always be a better product. So you have to trust the people that you bring into your circle, and that's how you do it. So,
Well, as far as bringing people into your circle goes and trusting people in your circle, you have, yeah, I mean, you're third generation, right? And you've
yeah.
got your grandson, even Osiris, like, the certain amount of knowledge has passed from generation to generation here.
Mhm.
So, my last question, I promise, this is it.
Um,
I
Coley
bringing us
says it
back.
all the time, doesn't he? Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
no.
yeah,
This
yeah,
is a
yeah, yeah.
good question. It's worth it.
Yeah,
No.
bringing it back to the personal level, what has flowed down from
Yeah.
grandfather to father to you to Osiris? What do you hope to keep going? What do you feel like is a personal core life tenet that matters most to you that you hope proceeds into the future?
um, I call it promises made, promises kept. Um, your integrity, um, what you are creating, um, that is what will live long after you're no longer on this earth.
Mhm.
Um, what are the tangibles that you left behind that someone could say, this is what I gave, this is what I contributed? This lady was sharing with me because of something else. One of my buddies just passed away, and she said, Freddie, she said, just always remember, as long as someone mentions your name and
Mhm.
someone mentions something that you did, to them, you're still alive. You still exist. And so I tell people all the time, our contribution with social media and the things that you are able to put together now, it is hard to imagine it will be around forever.
Mhm.
Was that? I heard somebody.
That was
Somebody.
my that was my spasm of my throat. So don't worry about
That's so funny.
it.
I
Yeah.
love it.
Mm.
We keep
I
things
was going
light
to say,
here.
Don't make a noise.
yeah, I was
Just
going to
making a
say,
noise.
did we just
Yeah.
reach that moment?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, for me, it's if I'm no longer on this earth, and people think about uh, while I was here, an event that we did together, just like this moment, um, what we just did with the water
Mm.
earlier on. Just try to imagine how many thousands of people will now try that water thing that we just did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
hopefully.
And then, yeah, and for people that are newbies coming in, that are in the habit of drinking wine or beer, uh, you're taking their palates from like 12 proof to 140 proof with some of these barrel
Mm.
proofs. They don't know any better. So they're like Bryan, and they're trying to take a big swig of it. It's killing them, and they're trying to act like they've got it, and their eyes are watering, and they're trying to catch their breath, and 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 it's like, this is not fun. But you guys bring fun into it.
Oh,
You
thank you.
you get rid of that intimidating factor, and to me, um, that's when you appreciate the bourbon, because I don't have to worry about how I'm drinking it. I can tell you about what I'm experiencing, and you may laugh, but then you're going to go back and play with it, and you're going to say, "Oh, I'd
Mhm.
be dipped. I've been missing this all this time." So, so that's that. To me, that's the beauty of all this, is that if I do nothing more on this earth while I'm here, but to create an awareness to others that it's something that it's meant to have fun. It's meant to create memories. If you can do that when you sit down with some friends, you've you've achieved your goal. The ultimate. I was just looking at how long we've been talking. I was like, holy crap, we've been rolling here.
Mm.
The ultimate compliment. Think about this one. With all the events and things that you guys have been doing, the ultimate compliment comes down to this: you're rolling along. It's everybody's nailing that good bottle, and then somebody goes, "Oh my word! Look at the time."
Mhm.
That's when you realize that the moment that you've created was so significant that for those folks, time was not a factor. That's when you know that your message has been received, is because they become more interested in content rather than who is delivering the message or what the message is. They process that, and it's the content of your message that's significant. So,
Amazing.
yeah.
Freddie, this is, we try to, I mentioned this before we started recording. I said, we are always aiming for sincerity and genuineness. And I told you, I was like, and that I am not worried about for you. This genuinely has been my favorite episode out of the 400 we recorded. So
Oh
thank
my
you
gosh.
so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, we we hope that maybe like episode 600 we'll have you on again. And hopefully you never retire, and we'll still have you on in 3 or 4 years. And I hope that you keep influencing people. I think of you as one of the most influential bourbon related legends out there. So I hope you keep it up and just keep inspiring people like me. So yeah.
Right.
And after our previous conversation, and you continue to push this longevity thing out there. So someone asked me the other day, they were like, "Well, Freddie, how much longer are you going to be around here?" And I thought about us joking earlier. I said, "Well, if you look over
yeah.
Oh, that's great.
I love it.
But yeah, so the beauty of life is just that. It's the beauty of life. So
absolutely.
Make memories, and y'all keep doing what you're doing. And thank you so much for including me on this podcast. My gosh.
Yeah. Freddie, thank
this
you.
Has been a delight. This has been a delight.
Oh, good. No, I'm so glad.
Thank you so much. I hope that Freddie, I hope that when you're talking about making memories, talking about people absorbing and remembering forever, you probably don't remember me, but times. Just your simply being here and hanging out with us for 2 hours has just impacted us on a level that is impossible to convey. We appreciate so much that you would spend time with us here, and we hope that that it means so much. And are you hoping for anything? Can we get a hope from Freddie Johnson on the Chill Filtered podcast here?
I would hope that maybe one day in the near future, the three of us could get together and share a pour, just a pour, and maybe create a memory.
So, amen to that.
Cool.
Thank you, Freddie. And I hope everyone, and thank you so much, Freddie. And I hope that our love of whiskey lifted your spirit. My theory here is that we are presenting ourselves with the opportunity for a quote double George very Stagg release.
Double George very Stagg. Double George very Stagg.
Let's see.
You ready? You ready, Freddie?
Oh gosh.